3 years into our marriage, my husband Thomas brazenly brought his new girlfriend into our home. Tears welled in my eyes as I blocked the master bedroom door with all my strength. Anywhere but here. Because inside was the other man I'd just snuck in. His arch nemesis, Julian. Thomas had been cheating on me for 3 years. To get back at him, I used liquid courage to bring his rival, Julian, home with me. But the second we tumbled onto the bed, Thomas called. The alcohol was clouding my judgment, Julian's kisses were hot and intense, and the mood was just right. I meant to silence the ringer but accidentally answered. "The Sterling," he said. "Bring me a box of condoms." I froze. My heart felt like a hollowed-out cavern. It didn't ache, it just felt like a bitter wind was whistling through me, chilling me to the bone. Over the past 3 years, he'd gone from hiding his phone to showing up with another woman's hickeys on his neck. He'd even started asking me, without a trace of shame, what kind of gifts an 18-year-old girl would like. The Sterling was the lavish love nest where he now openly kept his mistress. And now, at 11:39 p.m. he wanted me, his wife, to personally deliver condoms for him and another woman. Just how low was Thomas trying to drag me? The man who once loved me so passionately, what did he see me as now? An enemy? Rip. Julian tore my stockings and buried his head. My thoughts shattered. I grabbed a fistful of his hair, gasping for breath. On the other end of the line, Thomas misunderstood and chuckled. Mad? I bit my fingers, swallowing the whimper that rose in my throat, and said nothing. Julian moved in to kiss me again, but I pushed him away. As a compromise, he started licking my earlobe. I had a sneaking suspicion he was trying to eavesdrop. After a brief silence, Thomas spoke again. "I just prefer that brand. Lauren's a bit wild." 2 boxes weren't enough. Then, a woman's coquettish laugh came through the phone. "Thomas, you're so bad. Aren't you afraid of breaking her heart?" Her voice grew louder as she moved closer to the receiver. "He's just messing with you. We're not using those anymore. You haven't been able to have a baby in 5 years of marriage, so Thomas's plan is for me to have one for you to raise." A violent shudder ran through me. I scrambled up Julian's shoulders, pressing my body against his. I was so cold. So cold. The early autumn night was bone-chillingly frigid, and the void in my heart was growing larger. I desperately needed warmth, needed someone to fill me up. My tear-filled eyes met Julian's deep, dark gaze. He leaned down and kissed me hard, pulling me into a tight embrace. His hands, burning with heat, gripped my skin, as if trying to knead their strength into my very bones. Hot breaths mingled between our lips, tangling, exploring. Julian. A man I'd only met once, with whom I'd formed an alliance out of a shared desire to screw with Thomas. It was as if he knew I was cold. I tore at his clothes, greedily soaking up the warmth that might have just been pity. I was like someone who'd been trudging through a blizzard for ages. The moment I was enveloped by that long-lost heat, the moment our skin touched, a shiver coursed through me. An electric current shot through my body, and a tingling numbness fogged my brain, leaving me in a daze. I spoke into the phone, my tongue feeling thick and slow. "Sorry," I purred. "Can't make it." Then I hung up and fell completely into Julian's arms. At the Sterling, Thomas stared blankly at his dark phone screen, a strange sense of panic creeping in. Lauren watched his expression and smiled knowingly. "What's wrong, honey? Your wife didn't throw a fit, and now you're feeling disappointed?" Thomas pursed his lips and said nothing. Lillian hanging up on him was exactly the reaction he'd expected. Her voice at the end, though, had been unusually soft and hazy, almost a whisper. She must have been half asleep when he called. But she was too calm. Thomas remembered the first time she'd caught him. Her hair was a mess, her eyes were bloodshot and swollen, and she'd stared at him with gritted teeth, her voice sharper than he'd ever heard as she raised her hand to slap him. She looked like she was about to lose her mind. After that, she said he was dirty and refused to share a bed with him. So, he started pushing her buttons even more. Lipstick on his collar, hickeys on his neck. Once, he even told her his new fling had a much better ass than she did. He'd meant for her to break down and beg for a truce. But it backfired. In their escalating war, he'd lost sight of his original goal. He hurt her on purpose, just to see the pain on her face, to prove to himself that she still cared. But Lillian's reactions seemed to fade over time. At first, she said, "Don't let it happen again." Later, it became, "Just don't get caught by the paparazzi." Eventually, whenever she heard about his latest scandal, she'd just go on a massive shopping spree. But for the last 3 months, he and Lauren had been inseparable, their affair plastered all over the gossip sites. Lillian hadn't tried to suppress the rumors, nor had she used his credit card for a single purchase. Thomas suddenly recalled a line from No Longer Human. Overnight, my heart was as if it were a different person's. Love doesn't necessarily die from a lack of reciprocation, but it will wither from repeated disappointment. Love doesn't just stop after a few heartbreaks, so I kept patching it up until one day, I just didn't want it anymore. I realized something so tattered and broken wasn't very dignified. So, had Lillian decided to let him go? A jolt went through Thomas. He shot up, grabbing his scattered clothes and quickly pulling them on. Lauren playfully twirled a lock of her hair, her other hand resting on his shoulder to stop him. "It's a classic move, honey. A strategic retreat. If you go rushing back now, you'll be playing right into her hands." Thomas paused. "Honestly, your wife is way too proud. She's trying to force you to make the first move. But I don't think you did anything wrong. She's the one who pushed you away in the first place." Thomas turned to look at Lauren. Her eyes were strikingly similar to Lillian's, and a wave of irritation washed over him. She was right. Why was Lillian so stubborn? He'd just had a moment of weakness. In their circle, what man hadn't strayed? Besides, he'd never had real feelings for any of those women. He didn't even let them call him by his first name. He made them call him Mr. Sterling. Even in moments of passion, he always called out Lillian, never anyone else. Thomas felt he had given Lillian plenty of respect. Suddenly, he felt deeply wronged. Why couldn't Lillian just be a little softer? Why couldn't she just forgive him? Thomas changed his mind. He lifted Lauren's chin, a playful smirk on his face. "Let's change venues. How about my place?" The moment someone knocked on the master bedroom door, I felt a wave of defeat. Thomas hadn't set foot in this room for ages. It took me 3 months to find out about his first affair. How was it that the one time I finally mustered the courage to take my first step into infidelity, I was about to be caught red-handed? I quickly pulled Julian up, trying to shove him into the closet. But the man was not cooperating. "Hide? What for? Didn't you say I was bigger than him?" "Yeah, but you were fast, buddy. Fast like a rookie." Mortified and furious, I clamped a hand over his mouth. "Shut up. You know why in those revenge stories the first 80% is all suffering? It's to build up the catharsis for the final 20%. Cheating is the same. If you get caught right at the beginning, it's not thrilling, and it won't do much damage to Thomas. We have to last at least 3 months before he finds out. I don't care. It was my damn competitive streak. I had to cheat longer than Thomas." Julian pouted, lowered his head, and squeezed himself into the closet. "Fine, have it your way." I shut the door, scrambled to find a high-neck silk dress, and frantically sprayed perfume all over myself and the room. Finally, I slipped on my heels, took a deep breath, and slowly opened the door. "It's so late. What's up?" I tried to act calm, casually closing the door behind me. But the sight of the man and woman wrapped around each other in the hallway still made me freeze. Lauren glanced at me and burst out laughing. "Thomas, honey, it looks like your wife got all dressed up to win you back." Looks like I was right. Her calmness wasn't because she's given up and wants to leave. It's just her playing hard to get. She's all ready for you, just waiting for you to beg her to take you back." She waved a hand in front of her nose. "But wow, that's a lot of perfume. Are you afraid Thomas will smell the old lady on you, honey?" "Not at all. I was just trying to cover up the smell of the other man." I grumbled internally while explaining lamely, "Oh, I accidentally broke a bottle of perfume." Hearing this, Thomas scanned me from head to toe and sneered. "A silk dress?" I nervously fiddled with the high collar. Only a collar this high could hide the constellation of hickeys underneath. "Stockings?" My foot slid back half a step. The ankle-length dress covered the giant rip Julian had made, but it still felt like I was exposed. "High heels?" "Well, how should I put it? Julian and I had been kissing our way from the front door to the bedroom. I really didn't have time to change into slippers." Thomas shot a smirk at Lauren, then pushed me against the wall. He leaned in close, clicking his tongue. "There's no shame in admitting you're wrong to your husband, you know. And if you have needs, you can just say so. This whole act is just making things awkward for everyone." His breath, stinking of stale alcohol, was a nauseating reminder of his debauched night with that woman. I pushed him away in disgust. "You seem to have misunderstood. Getting dressed up isn't always about pleasing a man. Sometimes, it's about pleasing myself." A voice suddenly whispered through the earpiece hidden under my hair, Julian's voice, low and mischievous. "And me." Before opening the door, Julian and I had connected our phones on a voice call with Bluetooth earpieces, just in case of an emergency. But clearly, he was using it to be a smartass whenever he saw an opening. Instantly, the wave of sadness that had been building inside me subsided. Thomas, furious, grabbed Lauren's hand and started heading for the master bedroom. "Fine, Lillian. Let's see how long you can keep that tough act up. Since you're not willing to fulfill your wifely duties, someone else will. The soundproofing in our bedroom is excellent. Don't you dare find an excuse to come knocking later." Panic seized me. I quickly threw my arm across the doorframe, blocking their way. "Anywhere but here." I was so nervous that I started blinking rapidly, and an eyelash fell into my eye, stinging it and making tears well up. Seeing my reddened eyes, Thomas suddenly seemed a little pleased. He probably thought I still cared about the special meaning of this room, where our wedding sheets had once been laid. "Well, you have a good night then. Sweet dreams." He stared at me, his gaze dripping with smug condescension. As I stood there in silence, he led Lauren to the adjacent room. "We'll be quiet." Lauren glanced back at me, her expression a mix of triumph and mockery. Thomas scowled at her, then slapped her on the ass before slamming the door shut. The next second, the master bedroom door behind me clicked open. A veiny arm snaked out, wrapped around my waist, and impatiently pulled me inside. Julian pressed me against the wall, trapping me in a possessive embrace. All I could see was a broad, solid chest rising and falling with each breath. The sadness vanished in an instant. Faced with such beauty, healing was a given. I told myself it was fine if he was fast. Nobody's perfect. The man's Adam's apple bobbed, his abdomen tensed. He was like a predator, coiled and ready to pounce. Yet he feigned innocence, leaning close and whispering in a low voice, "So, with them just a wall away, should we continue?" His heavy breathing was a hot gust against my ear. I stood on my tiptoes and kissed his lips, a light, fleeting touch. "Of course," I said softly. "Didn't you hear him? The soundproofing is great." It was like lighting a fuse. Julian's mouth descended on mine, fierce and demanding, invading without permission. Our lips and tongues met, and he sucked on the tip of my tongue, inch by inch. The closed door sealed us in our own little world. In the quiet of the night, the only sound was the wet noise of our kissing. The sweet, floral scent of the room filled the air, like an invisible hand teasing and caressing, making my head spin. This is a real thrill. A wall apart, him and his little fling, you and me. The kiss ended. Julian nibbled on my earlobe, his voice husky and teasing with every syllable. "I'm so glad I listened to you. A low laugh escaped my chest. I hooked my arms around his neck and we tumbled onto the soft bed. Then give me more pleasure. As you wish. All of me will be yours. Julian's hand slid down my arm until our palms met. His fingers forced their way between mine, our hands locking together. Instantly, the void in my heart was filled, but he wasn't satisfied. He pushed deeper, determined to pour all his passion into me, to shatter my sorrow. Tears of sensation welled in my eyes. I bit my lip, trying desperately to hold back the embarrassing moans. A shrill, cat-in-heat shriek came from the next room, ruining the mood. Thomas. I'm gonna die. I rolled my eyes in annoyance. The woman's screams were so forced and over the top. But the man on top of me seemed oblivious. He leaned in close, asking in a low, curious voice, "Why is she making that sound? Am I not being forceful enough?" Julian immediately put his new theory into practice. Damn it, his competitive streak was kicking in. Tears of frustration welled up. I pulled my hand from his and bit down on it, hard. Sweat dampened my temples. My heart pounded like a drum, my mind a white fog, rising and dissipating. I don't know if Julian was doing it on purpose or if he was genuinely clueless, but he pulled my hand away from my mouth. Seeing the bite marks, he asked with concern, "What's wrong? Did I hurt you?" He looked at me with such deep affection, his concern so genuine, that for a fleeting moment, it felt like I was loved. I gave a lazy smile and pulled his neck down. "Don't stop, keep going." I kissed him again, swallowing every sound that tried to escape into the tangle of our mouths. Once I broke my own shackles, desire became a pastime. Love or no love, it didn't matter. Living in the moment was all that counted. A wall apart, he and she had a night of debauchery. I and he had a night of stolen pleasure. In the end, it was hard to tell if it was revenge, a competition, or just surrendering to the seduction of desire. In my exhausted dreams, there was a small boat on a stormy sea. The wind howled and the waves crashed. The little boat tossed and turned, the bamboo pole thrashed, and the moon's reflection shattered. The world spun as the boat was swallowed by the waves. Then, the tide receded, the waves lapped gently at the shore, and everything finally fell silent. The next day, my 8 a.m. alarm pulled me from a deep sleep. My eyes opened to a handsome face, up close. His dark, messy hair, his thick, long lashes fluttering as his deep eyes slowly opened to look at me, full of affection. He crinkled his eyes, and a smile bloomed on his face like the top courtesan in a brothel. Morning. The man's voice was husky, his smile completely intoxicating. Morning. Even before I'd decided to seduce him, I knew he was gorgeous. I'd marveled at his face up close yesterday. But now, in the faint morning light filtering through the curtains, the intoxicating atmosphere had faded, and my sanity had returned. And here he was, still shirtless, his chiseled abs on full display. Utterly seductive. The impact was still pretty intense. It made me reconsider my definition of fast from last night. That was a premature judgment. Right now, every inch of my body was sore and heavy. I wanted to get up but couldn't figure out how to move. I wiggled under the covers, and Julian suddenly laughed. He propped his head up with one hand, asking with the utmost professionalism, "So, were you satisfied last night?" The stunning man's smile was like a spring breeze on a late autumn day. You were very useful." "Oh God, what am I saying?" Julian's smile widened. "Glad you enjoyed it." "Oh God, what is he saying? How can a person lose all sense of shame after one night of bearing it all?" I pulled the covers up, feeling the urge to hide my head under them. A sound from the living room broke the awkward tension. I suddenly remembered I'd completely forgotten about Thomas. I looked at Julian, who was lying in bed looking completely unfazed, and we just stared at each other. He made a fist and flexed his bicep for me. "Don't worry, I can take him." Is that really the issue here? If he gets caught in my bed, what moral high ground will I have left? No, we can't be exposed yet. So, back in the closet for me? Julian sat up, a stray lock of hair sticking up. A clear bite mark was visible on his left shoulder, and his chest was covered in scratch marks. He clutched the blanket to his chest and looked at me, the picture of sadness. For a split second, a bizarre thought flashed through my mind, the bond of a single night. I instinctively pushed him back down onto the bed. I can't keep putting you through that, I blurted out. Just lie here and rest. You must be tired from last night. Wait. What is wrong with my mouth today? I choked, quickly pulling the blanket up and covering Julian completely. I'm going to go get ready. Don't come out. Under the blanket, Julian's head gave a little nod. I'll call you when he's gone. TSK, saying that out loud is kind of a thrill. Muffled laughter came from under the blanket, making it shake. After a moment, his lazy voice replied, okay. I washed up quickly and opened the closet. For clothes, it had to be the high-neck silk dress again. As for shoes, I looked at the pair of high heels lying crookedly on the floor. Who needs shoes? I've got nothing to lose. I walked out barefoot. Thomas, already at the dining table, saw me and stood up. In a complete reversal of his nasty attitude from the night before, he brought out a pair of plush slippers and placed them by my feet. Since when do you not like wearing shoes? His tone was intimate, teasingly fond, as if we'd gone back in time. But that was precisely what I couldn't stand. I took a deep breath, kicked the slippers away, and sat down on the other side of the table. Maria, could you make another breakfast, please? The woman bustling in the kitchen cheerfully agreed. Thomas, whose face had darkened at my attitude, visibly brightened up again. She left a while ago. Did you really think I'd let her stay and upset you? He sat down next to me, took my hand, his eyes shining with a hint of self-satisfaction. My wife really is generous. But you don't have to go this far. I'll never let her get ahead of you. So disgusting. He was like a capricious tyrant, always wounding me until I was bleeding, then applying medicine and blowing gently on the cuts. As if one night could erase all the ugliness. But I remembered. 2 years into our marriage, I finally got pregnant. One day, he didn't come with me to my prenatal checkup. I received an anonymous text on my phone. It detailed the time and place of his affair, thoughtfully attaching photos. When I found him at that exact location, I thought I was going to lose my mind. This baby, I'd drunk countless herbal remedies and gone through 3 rounds of IVF to finally have this child. And at this moment, he had another woman. The chat logs showed that 1 second he was apologizing to me, and the next he was in bed with her. I had an abortion and asked for a divorce. But Thomas, the one who cheated, refused. Seeing my resolve, he called my parents. By then, he had passed the toughest phase of his startup and was successful. Our 2 families gathered, and everyone pointed their fingers at me. Thomas's parents blamed me for getting rid of the baby out of spite, calling me cold and selfish. My parents offered apologetic smiles, then turned and berated me for being foolish and impulsive, demanding I get pregnant again immediately. Finally, Thomas, who had been watching from the sidelines, stepped forward. I'll forgive you. Can you forgive me, too? Oh, so in his eyes, I had done something wrong, too. Our parents worked so hard to raise us and see us get married. Let's not make them worry about this, okay? With everyone on his side, his expression even held a hint of triumph. Let's make up, HM. I looked at him coldly and laughed through my tears. There won't be a next time. Thanks to you, today, I no longer have a mother or a father. At that moment, I made my move on the chessboard. Thomas, I'm not letting you off that easily. I want your heart to be ripped open, too, to bleed until it runs dry. I need you to suffer 100, 1,000 times more than me before I can have my revenge. And now, after 3 years of playing this game, it was finally time to switch from defense to offense. I pulled my hand back and said with a cold laugh, I remember you once suggested we try an open relationship. So, How about I find a man, too? Maybe after that, I'll be able to accept you. Thomas's face darkened again. He sneered, are you traumatized? Or is this just your new tactic? Trying to make me jealous? Possessive? He violently swept the silverware off the table. Lillian, if you really dare to find someone else, I wish you the best. But we'll never be able to go back. I won't have a woman who cheapens herself, who can't see straight, who uses her own body to play games. Seeing me still stone-faced and unmoved, Thomas grew even angrier. Our marriage has problems, and you're also to blame. You're always so tough, so proud, you can't let go of your pride for a second. You refuse to say a single soft word and always have to say something hurtful to provoke me. He shot to his feet. Go on, keep it up. When you've finally worn out all our feelings, you'll regret it. Watching his retreating, furious back, I curled my lips into a silent smile. You're wrong, Thomas. The feelings between us were worn out long ago. What I want most right now is to destroy the successful career you're so proud of. I want you to spend every day in regret, every night sleepless, dreaming of a do-over. I couldn't stay deep in thought for more than 2 seconds before Maria came over, sighing. She placed the extra breakfast on the table and bent down to pick up the broken pieces. I felt a little embarrassed. Sorry to make more work for you. Maria waved her hand. Oh, this is nothing. My last employer, every time they argued, they'd sweep the entire table clean. Total meltdown. This is small potatoes. Her words trailed off as she saw Julian striding out of the master bedroom like a whirlwind. I gave a dry laugh. He's a bit clingy. Julian pulled out his phone, ready to offer a hush money transfer. But Maria suddenly clapped her hands. Beautiful. Just beautiful. She turned to me, her face glowing with excitement. Well done. He's gorgeous, too. This new dish is way better than your husband. Julian beamed. I felt a bit awkward. Maria, could you please not? Oh, I get it. My lips are sealed. Maria shook her head, winking at me furiously. So thrilling. You young people really know how to live. She covered her mouth and walked away, giggling. Julian stood there with his phone, a little lost. She's just leaving? She's not going to praise me some more? I rolled my eyes at him. Maria only comes in to make breakfast. Oh. He pulled a chair over and squeezed in next to me, asking nonchalantly, so, that open relationship thing, you were just saying that to piss him off, right? You guys are going to get a divorce, right? He clutched his collar, a little shy, a little demanding. We've already, you know. You have to divorce him and be with me. One night of sleep, and suddenly he thinks he owns me. I rolled my eyes again, speechless. Divorce? Our original goal was just to mess with him, to give him a taste of his own medicine. If we get divorced, how is it still cheating on him? Julian's expression turned strangely mournful, which I took as a very bad sign. Anyway, I have my own pace. If you can't handle it, I can find someone else. Julian panicked. No need to find anyone else. I'll do whatever you say. He pursed his lips, trying his best to sell himself. Besides, only my status can cause him the most pain, right? That was true. It was the main reason I'd sought him out. But I still couldn't figure out what his beef with Thomas was. Julian was the heir to an old money fortune. Thomas was just a new money upstart who got lucky. They had no connections, no reason to be compared. But right after Thomas's affair started, a contract he'd been negotiating was suddenly cancelled, and partners whose contracts were up chose not to renew. A little digging revealed that Julian had publicly declared that a man who mistreats his wife is bad for business. He then went on to list numerous reasons why unfaithful men are untrustworthy and even bring bad luck to those around them. After that, he brought these arguments to every public event, always dropping Thomas's name. Thanks to Julian's not-so-subtle hints, Thomas's company struggled. He had to eat crow every time just to close a deal. Thomas would come home fuming, cursing Julian's name, which is how I learned of his existence. Last night, I had just pretended to be so hurt that I'd lost all reason. I drunkenly draped myself over his shoulders and whispered suggestively in his ear, "I hear you and my husband are rivals. Want to mess with him together?" Julian had agreed on the spot, without a second's hesitation. I suddenly got curious. "So," I asked, my voice full of gossip, "why do you hate him so much?" It couldn't really be just because he cheated. Julian lifted his eyes and looked at me quietly. His gaze was dark and heavy, with an obscurity I couldn't decipher. After a long moment, he finally spoke, his voice tinged with a strange mix of helplessness and bitterness. "You'll never know." "Oh." He didn't want to say. "Fine by me. I wasn't that curious anyway." I shrugged. "Finish eating, then you should head home. We'll meet up again some other time." I texted my Muay Thai instructor to cancel my class and went back to my room to catch up on sleep. I slept until dusk and woke up to find myself being held. I was furious. I turned and raised my hand. "Thomas, you dare." "Wait. Julian? What are you still doing here?" The man, his eyes still hazy with sleep, nuzzled my arm. "Tired," he mumbled. My face instantly flushed. I pulled the blanket up higher, tucking him in. "Go to sleep, go to sleep." I turned away and rested my forehead in my hand, feeling ancient. Seriously, are cheaters this bold now? Is he just moving in? That night, Thomas didn't come home. Julian cheerfully helped me make dinner. After eating, we sat on the rug, leaning against the sofa, and watched a movie on the projector. After getting ready for bed, he lay comfortably in the master bedroom and patted the empty space beside him. I scratched my head, racking my brain, but I couldn't figure it out. How did we slide so seamlessly into this couple-like routine? While I was asleep during the day, he'd found time to go home, pack up his toiletries and clothes, and stash them in my closet. He called it committing to the thrill. Now, he was lying there in his open front, deep V silk pajamas, grinning and beckoning to me. "Come on." "No, I'm scared." Then Julian pulled me onto the bed, his hands starting to roam. I politely declined. "I really can't. My back hurts." "Then I'll just hold you." "Can you not poke me then?" "I can't help it, but I promise." I clamped a hand over his mouth. "Hey, my little piggy, stop talking and go to sleep." I immediately shut my eyes, planning to play dead and then scold him for it. But I ended up falling asleep, and nothing happened. Julian got up early and went to help Maria with breakfast. The moment I opened my door, he was there holding a tray, his white teeth flashing in a dazzling smile. His broad shoulders and narrow waist were cinched in a small apron, giving off major husband vibes. I felt this was not going to work. It was too much. After Maria left, I sat at the dining table and tentatively suggested, "Maybe I should come to your place." "Great. I'll help you pack right now." I hissed. Something felt off. Julian rolled up his sleeves, full of energy. "We should pack everything, all your usual stuff." He opened my bedroom drawer and found it empty. He opened the closet and found that, except for the one he'd hidden in, everything else was empty, too. Julian looked delighted. "You were planning on leaving him all along, weren't you? Then you don't need to bring these formal clothes. I've already bought you new ones at my place." Ahem. He caught himself. "I just bought them." I narrowed my eyes. Something was very, very wrong with this man. I moved into Julian's house. And so began our shameless, blissful life as a fake couple. My plan was simple: divorce the scumbag and, at the same time, make Julian get tired of me. I thought this kind of wild fling would naturally fizzle out, but Julian seemed to be getting more and more into it. After about 2 weeks of this, Thomas, who had been putting on a show of blissful romance with Lauren, finally realized there was no audience anymore. He'd even been seen with Lauren at a bridal shop and bought matching couples rings. Lauren had called me triumphantly to gloat, only to be met with my flat, "Oh." Thomas finally couldn't take it anymore and called me. "Where are you this late? What new tantrum are you throwing?" A pair of strong arms wrapped around me from behind, and Julian buried his head in my shoulder, nuzzling me intensely. I really wanted to say, "in another man's bed." But in the end, I blamed it on my best friend. "I'm at Renee's. I'm not coming home." Thomas let out a breath of relief. "Don't forget you're coming with me to the gala tomorrow." I frowned. "Are you sure you want me to go with you?" Thomas's voice was firm. "You're my wife. Who else would I take?" "Oh, right. I bought you a gemstone ring. Wear it tomorrow." But Lauren's assistant had told me he'd bought a whole gemstone set. He gave the necklace and earrings to Lauren and kept the ring for me. Julian also found out that Lauren's name was on the gala guest list. So, Thomas's plan for tomorrow night was this: I would show up wearing the ring he bought, only to run into Lauren wearing the matching necklace and earrings. He wanted to show everyone that while I held the title of his wife, the woman he loved was someone else. If I were kept in the dark, I would have been the biggest joke of the night. If I still loved him, my heart would have been torn to shreds. I suddenly felt tired. The lover I once knew was now a stranger, someone who fed on my pain. We had gone from high school sweethearts to husband and wife, surviving the post-graduation slump, long distance, and meeting the parents. We'd overcome so many obstacles to finally be together. I thought it was the start of a happy life, but it ended up a total wreck. Let's just end it all on that day. "Okay," I said solemnly. "I'll be there on time." Just like our wedding day, witnessed by so many people. Our breakup should have a proper beginning and end, too. On the other end of the line, Thomas, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me, chuckled. Finally being a little obedient. "I thought you were going to argue with me for a while before agreeing." His answer was met with dead silence. I quickly hung up. His self-satisfaction disgusted me. When Julian heard that I had agreed to go to the gala, he didn't show it on his face, but he became extra clingy. He buried his fluffy head in the crook of my neck, pouncing on me like an eager puppy, nibbling and licking me relentlessly. The next day, I looked at the red marks all over my collarbones in the mirror and expressionlessly squeezed out a pump of foundation. Before I could spread it, Julian's hand came up and wiped it away. I turned to look at him, sighing in frustration. "You're being really childish, you know." "No, I'm just looking for an excuse to give you a present." With that, he slowly brought out an obscenely lavish handful of jewelry from behind his back. He opened his hand and carefully fastened it around my neck. A choker settled snugly against my throat, while a heavy, ornate gemstone necklace lay resplendently on my collarbones. The two pieces together perfectly concealed all the hickeys. He looked at my reflection in the mirror and said earnestly, "Whether it's a necklace or anything else, you deserve the best." Then, he got down on one knee, and with a solemn expression, he slipped a massive gemstone ring onto my ring finger. I was a little stunned. Was this to comfort me? This man's intentions were becoming clearer and clearer. I lowered my gaze and said softly, "Can I borrow your recently returned cousin? Since he wants to use another woman to humiliate me, I can't exactly show up alone." Julian tugged at his tie, looking confused. "Am I not the best candidate?" I smiled and kissed him. "You're the ultimate weapon. I'm saving you for last." That night, I didn't let Thomas pick me up. But I still wore the ring he'd given me. When Thomas saw the ring on my hand, his eyes flickered, as if with a hint of regret. But in the end, he said nothing and just offered me his arm with a practiced gesture. I just smiled softly and didn't move. Julian, who had intentionally entered from another side, strode up to me. He had a smug, punchable grin on his face. "Ms. Lillian, hello. Forgive me for being so forward, but I think your neck is beautiful, and your collarbones are very sexy. You should show them off." I gave him a half-amused, half-exasperated look. What a jackass. Mr. Julian, thank you for the compliment. I think next time, if my neck isn't having an allergic reaction from my friend's dog chewing on it, I'll take your advice. Our eyes met, sharing a private joke that only we understood. Julian had been a bit sulky before because I'd taken off his ring. But now, he seemed to have found his fun elsewhere. Thomas, watching from the side, was fuming. Mr. Julian, I always thought you were a man of principles. Isn't it a bit forward to be saying things like that to my wife, right in front of me? Julian shrugged nonchalantly. My apologies. I've been politely in love with a girl for a long time, but her husband's been cheating on her for 3 years and she still won't divorce him. I'm getting a little impatient, so I've had to lower my moral standards. For instance. Julian shot me a playful look. A trial period before making it official, I can live with that. My eyes widened. I stared at Julian, and he looked back at me, his gaze intense. In that electrifying moment, a flood of memories came back to me. We had actually gone to the same high school. I think we even spoke a few times. In our senior year, Julian's identity as an heir to a fortune was exposed, and he was forced to transfer schools before the final exams. On the day he left, he gave imported chocolates to everyone in our grade. Thomas's business, which had been struggling more and more after he started cheating, would get a hard time from Julian, only for him to end up getting the contract anyway. And that night, when I had cornered him at the club, he had ditched his friends without a moment's hesitation. He wasn't a playboy. In fact, he'd never had a girlfriend, leading to rumors that he was gay. I gave a nervous laugh, flustered. Mr. Julian, are you trying to stand up for me? Don't worry, I won't let someone else's mistakes hurt me. Seeing my strange reaction, Thomas sneered, pulling me forcefully into a corner. His voice was a mix of anxiety and ridicule. He's doing this because of me. He's jealous of me, so he's hitting on you. You don't actually think he's serious, that he likes you, do you? He pointed at me, enunciating every word. You're a nearly 30-year-old, married woman who's had an abortion. Can you please stop with these absurd, narcissistic fantasies? There were so many things wrong with what he said, I didn't even know where to begin. I just asked, bewildered, what could he possibly be jealous of you for? The guy is taller, better looking, richer, and has bigger pecs than you. Ha! Thomas scoffed. He may be an heir to a fortune, but his wealth was handed to him by his ancestors. How can that compare to me, a self-made man? That's how those upper-class people are. So petty. They sit on their piles of money and still get jealous of other people's abilities. I was truly flabbergasted. How can a person be so narcissistic? Poverty really can hide a person's true nature. The Thomas I was seeing now was his true self. The essence of cheating is greed and selfishness. In his heart, he didn't believe in monogamy. His promises of love, of loving me forever, of only loving me, they all came with conditions. They only counted when he was poor. I quietly clenched my fists, my patience wearing thin. Luckily, Lauren arrived just then. She sashayed over in a tight dress, her eyes landing on the ring on my hand before her face twisted into a smirk of pure malice and contempt. The last shred of Thomas's regret vanished. In front of everyone, he wrapped his arm around Lauren's waist. The crowd seemed to freeze for a moment before resuming their chatter. I smiled faintly and glanced at Julian, who was standing nearby. He gave a slight nod to the young man beside him. And just like that, the bewildered young man was jogging over to my side. I linked my arm with his and raised an eyebrow at Thomas. Don't look so sour. You started it, I'm just returning the favor. It's only fair. The young man leaned in, completely lost. Ma'am, what am I supposed to do? Slut. Lauren suddenly shrieked. Was he about to call you a slut? You slept with him to get back at Thomas, didn't you? Why else would he call you that? I shot a cold glare at Thomas. Your girlfriend just called me a slut. Aren't you going to do something about it? Thomas's face was dark. She's not wrong. You're parading around with another man right in front of me just to spite me. What else would you call that but a slut? Ha! I laughed coldly, then raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. Thomas's head snapped to the side. He looked at me in disbelief. Lillian. You hit me? Under his furious gaze, I lifted my skirt, raised my foot, and kicked him hard in the groin. Tears streamed down my face as I cried out, Thomas, how could you do this to me? I slammed my head into his nose, stomped on his foot with my heel, and elbowed him in the jaw. You brought your little girlfriend to a gala with me, and you put your arm around her right in front of my face. I held up the ring on my hand and then pointed to the necklace around Lauren's neck. And what is this? The title for me, the love for her, is that it? I followed up with a side kick, a sweep kick, a flurry of kicks. I'm not hitting her. I'm only hitting you. It's because you cheated that she's even here. It's because you allow it that she dares to provoke me. At the end of the day, this is all your fault. I drove my knuckles into his chest, elbowed his ribs. You cheated on me when I was 2 months pregnant. You figured I would just give in because I'd drunk all that medicine and gone through 3 rounds of IVF for that hard-won baby, right? Thomas was powerless to fight back, and too ashamed to cry out. He could only curl up on the ground, covering his head. I straddled him and slapped him again and again. But you bet wrong. I got rid of the baby and I asked for a divorce. You refused. You used my parents to pressure me. I told you that you disgusted me, so you started flaunting these women in my face, just to rip my heart out. A chorus of gasps and murmurs went through the crowd, people whispering about how Thomas had gone too far. But they didn't know. My tears were fake. The real tears of heartbreak had all been shed the day I found out he cheated. This was just an excuse for a well-deserved beating. The marriage certificate he refused to let go of had become my best shield. Lauren tried to pull me off, but Julian's cousin blocked her. I slapped Thomas's face, over and over. I was returning every invisible slap he had ever dealt me, with interest. Once again, my eyes were bloodshot, my hair was a mess, and I had lost all composure. An inappropriate thought even crossed my mind, this was a 2-for-1 deal. When Julian saw me like this, he probably wouldn't want anything to do with me anymore. But then, a warmth spread across my knees. Julian had taken off his jacket and draped it over my exposed thighs. He raised a hand, warding off anyone who tried to intervene. This is Ms. Lillian's private matter. Please let her handle it herself. His shadow enveloped me. He stood before me like a fortress, his eyes colder than I'd ever seen them, his presence powerful yet strangely comforting. Suddenly, he turned his head and whispered to me, "Be careful. Don't break a nail." My hand froze mid-air. I even felt an urge to tuck a stray strand of messy hair behind my ear. Thomas, dazed and battered, slowly looked from me to Julian. You, too? I leaned close to his ear. Yes. Us. I took Thomas to the hospital. The doctor asked the standard question, what happened here? I didn't hide anything. We were at a gala, and he brought his mistress. He bought a jewelry set, she wore the necklace and earrings, and he gave me the ring. The nurse examining Thomas pricked up her ears. Not long ago, he asked me to bring him and his mistress condoms. Then, he brought her into our home, had her stay in the room right next to mine. It all started when he cheated on me 2 months into my pregnancy. When I put it all together, I just couldn't help but hit him. The nurse's gentle touch became noticeably rougher. When Thomas let out a pained groan, she scoffed, "What are you crying about? You're a grown man. Can't handle a little pain?" I smirked. Thomas, you've finally crossed a line that even strangers find outrageous. To destroy a man, you must first let him go mad with arrogance. My 3 years of patience and planning were finally coming to an end. I opened my phone. The top trending topic was a picture of a frantic, D-list celebrity named Lauren, me delivering a beatdown, and a battered Thomas. And that quote, "I'm not hitting her." I'm only hitting you. It's because you cheated that she's even here. It's because you allow it that she dares to provoke me. At the end of the day, this is all your fault." The top comment read, "After all these years, someone finally hit the right person. PSA, if you lose your cool and hit the other woman, you could go to jail. But if you lose your cool and beat up your husband, it's just a domestic issue. Also, a word of warning to the mistresses, if you lose your cool and hit the wife, you could go to jail too. Don't be an idiot. Girl, you must have been secretly training for this day for a long time." After everyone left, Thomas, his face swollen like a pig's, looked at me with a pained expression. "Do you hate me that much?" I took out his phone, unlocked it, muted it, turned it off, and smashed it on the ground. Only then did I answer solemnly, "Yes, I hate you. I've hated you since 3 years ago, when you sicked my parents on me. All the hysteria, the gradual concessions, and every shopping spree that looked like surrender, it was all an act for you." Thomas didn't understand. Why? Because society demands that women be pure and flawless. The concept of chastity was invented as a virtue exclusively for women. Society also demands that women be submissive, that their acts of resistance are only understood when they've been pushed to an outrageous extreme. I was waiting. Waiting for you to say those words, "The Sterling, bring me a box of condoms." What can I say? It seems a woman has to be pitiful to the extreme to evoke sympathy, to make people angry on her behalf. To ruin you. To nail your name to the scumbag hall of shame, to tarnish your reputation for life. A divorce can split the house, the cars, the money, the kids. But what about the wound the other person carved into your heart? Who's going to fix that? How do you get compensated for that? I want justice for my wounds. Thomas was furious. Even so, I'm not divorcing you. As long as your parents are on my side, you can forget about leaving me. I gave him a mocking smile. This time, it's not up to you. If your own parents beg you to get a divorce, how long can you hold out? As Thomas stared at me, confused, his parents rushed in. "You jinx. You home wrecker. You useless hen who can't even lay an egg. How dare you hit my son?" His mother stormed in, spewing filth, and raised her designer bag to hit me. I dodged quickly and punched Thomas in the stomach, making him yelp. His mother, heartbroken, raised her hand again. I cleanly punched Thomas again. "Listen up, old hag. Every time you curse at me or try to hit me, I'm taking it out on your son." His father, who had been standing by, finally stepped in to stop her. "Stop it. Let's just check on our son." I nodded at Thomas in approval. "Your dad's the smart one." My words fueled the fire. All 3 of them were now glaring at me. I pulled the divorce papers out of my bag and tossed them on the bed. Perfect timing. You 2 should convince him to sign these. Otherwise, I guarantee, scenes like today, where I beat your son to a pulp, will become a regular occurrence. As I walked out of the hospital room, I picked up my phone and called Lauren's assistant. It's time to talk some sense into her. Better you than me. While all eyes are on Thomas, she needs to push all the blame onto him. Lauren wasn't beautiful, but she was incredibly stupid. Especially since she couldn't get through to Thomas's phone right now. She would think she'd been abandoned and, in a fit of anger, she'd agree to her assistant's suggestion. Lauren would never guess that her assistant had switched sides and was now working for me. The fury of an underpaid, disrespected assistant can sometimes destroy everything. So, never look down on anyone. In the dim light of the stairwell, Julian peeked out from his hiding spot. "You bought the trending topic?" The resentment that had been festering in my chest for 3 years was finally gone. I was in a great mood. I playfully scratched his chin and praised him, so smart. "So when are you 2 getting divorced?" Julian's eyes sparkled with excitement, like a puppy wagging its tail. Remembering what he had said before, my expression turned serious. "Julian, I'm afraid to love again. It's true that people don't cherish what they have. It's like when you buy a new pair of shoes. At first, you carefully wipe off every speck of dust. But after a while, you don't even care if someone steps on them. Thomas, he used to be someone whose every frown would break my heart. Julian looked lost and uncertain. For adults, you don't need a direct rejection. Those words were clear enough. But Julian suddenly pulled me into a hug, his voice full of hurt. Then I won't ask for anything official. Can we just have a trial period forever? I'll find you the best lawyer. We'll make him leave with nothing. Julian was becoming a problem. The guy just wouldn't take a hint. I had originally thought that since my heart had been betrayed, I couldn't betray someone else's. But his persistence was starting to awaken my competitive side. I was tempted to make another bet with him, to see just how long his love would last. Luckily, I was rational enough. So, I smiled and told him, I don't want his money or his house. I just want to destroy him. So don't do anything. Just watch. Wish me luck. If I fail, things might get bloody. It might end in a fight to the death. See, Julian? A woman this vindictive. You should be scared now. Wah, it's all my fault, all my fault. Wait, Julian, what the hell is this? The fake smile on my face faltered. Julian suddenly burst into tears, grabbing his hair in frustration. I shouldn't have been so proper and waited for you to get a divorce. I shouldn't have invested in Thomas just so you could have a better life. I should have crashed the wedding, thrown money at your parents to make them agree. Wait, you invested in Thomas? I suddenly remembered. When Thomas was first starting his business, he was being maliciously targeted and couldn't raise enough capital. Just as he was about to give up, a classmate he hadn't spoken to in ages suddenly offered him a huge loan. I thought it was strange at the time, but Thomas had smugly said that even God was on his side. He's successful because of me? If Thomas found out the truth after the divorce, how would he react? I thought, maliciously. Yeah. Julian stepped forward and wrapped his arms around my waist, burying his head in my shoulder. He said, half jokingly, half seriously, I should have revealed my identity back then, used money to threaten him to send you to my bed. Maybe he would have shown his true colors then. He tightened his arms around me. So Lillian, if you fail, I'll be the one to draw blood. Crazy. That was my only evaluation of Julian. That night, Lauren posted a statement saying Thomas had hidden his marital status from her and that she was a victim, too. I bought her a bunch of bots, and they all flooded the comments, trashing Thomas. Next, I had a brand looking for publicity contact her for a collaboration. Just as she was at the peak of her smugness, I quickly registered an account and posted an audio clip. The Sterling, bring me a box of condoms. Thomas, you're so bad. Aren't you afraid of breaking her heart? He's just messing with you. We're not using those anymore. You haven't been able to have a baby in 5 years of marriage, so Thomas's plan is for me to have one for you to raise. Lauren's voice was crystal clear. The recording immediately went viral. Lauren was dragged so hard she had to quit the entertainment industry. The endorsement she just signed was terminated, and they demanded she pay damages. The latest top comment was, "For the sake of my sanity, please just divorce him." I immediately replied, "The first time he cheated, I had an abortion and asked for a divorce. But he refused and had my parents threaten to kill themselves to make me stay. He was successful, so my parents took his side." A big shot commented, "It's getting cold, time for the Sterling family to go bankrupt. Comrades, charge." Thomas's name became synonymous with scumbag. Netizens invented a new unit of measurement for scumbaggery, worse than Thomas, and not as bad as Thomas. People started sending funeral wreaths to his company. Employees quit in droves, saying that having his company on their resume was a stain. Even a business partner withheld payment, saying they would pay up when Thomas got divorced. My phone started blowing up with calls from both sets of parents and relatives. It seemed the public opinion storm had finally reached them. I just turned off my phone and hid out in Julian's villa. Lillian, can love hard and let go easy. Love, family, it's all the same. I had already decided not to care about them anymore. But I was still scared their words would hurt me again. I needed an embrace, a little warmth, and a little madness. The bedroom curtains were never opened again. I spent most of my time in bed, sleeping day and night, or being coaxed by Julian into endless lovemaking. Every other day, I would release a new piece of evidence of Thomas's cheating to keep the story trending. Thomas finally caved and sent me a message to discuss the divorce. Only then did I show up to meet him, flanked by 2 private bodyguards. But when I saw both sets of our parents glaring at me, I knew. Even at this point, Thomas was still trying to stab me in the heart. I rolled my shoulders, cracked my neck, and licked my teeth. Why can't you ever learn? With that, I slapped him and ordered my bodyguards, hold them back. The 2 bodyguards each restrained a set of parents, while I focused on Thomas. I punched him in his stupid head, bent back his little finger. Thomas, when I first asked for a divorce, I held out for half a month. My parents went from calling me foolish, impulsive, and selfish to threatening suicide, completely ignoring the fact that I had just had an abortion and was still recovering. I kicked him in the groin, stomped on his foot, and scratched his face. Do you really think I still care about them now? I grabbed Thomas's hair and slammed his head against the table. Yes. Of course I do. Seeing them makes me angry. Thinking about the things they said makes me want to go crazy. And you, the mastermind behind it all, the devil who made me homeless, every time you bring them around, I just want to hit you. Finally, the chaotic shouting from our parents turned into a unified plea of stop hitting him. I slowly pulled out a tissue to wipe the blood from my hands and shot a cold glance at the 2 pairs of red-eyed parents. I'll say it again. If you dare curse at me or try to hit me, I will take it all out on him. I lifted Thomas's chin. So, are you ready to sign now? This is domestic abuse. Thomas's mother, probably unable to swallow her pride, shouted at me, her voice a mix of bravado and fear. I gave a lazy smile and spread my hands. Who's gonna do anything about it? I'm very measured. It looks bad, but it's all just superficial. Besides, I have a perfectly good reason. Your son cheated for 3 years, flaunting it in my face, and both sets of parents helped him. Me fighting back? Totally justified, right? Thomas's father chimed in, you've been professionally trained. I shrugged. Same answer. Your son cheated. For my own mental and physical health, I decided to pick up a hobby. Perfectly justified. At the end of the day, as long as we have that marriage certificate you all forced on me, he'll just have to suck up all the pain and bruises. Perhaps my shamelessness was so different from my old self. My parents covered their mouths and started to sob. Lillian, how did you become like this? I looked at them coldly. The day you decided to side with Thomas for the sake of my brother's job, I had already changed. Thomas, who had been silently taking the beating, finally spoke. Mom, Dad, all of you, please leave. So, he wanted to talk seriously now? I quickly shooed them out. Cooperate. The sooner we divorce, the sooner your precious son can escape this hell. After they left, I clicked my tongue. Wow, I never thought I'd be the one described as hell. When it was just me and Thomas in the room. I said with a cold laugh, so you have questions for me, but you didn't want them to hear. Are you trying to save face for me? Or for yourself? Thomas lifted his swollen head, his eyes dark and menacing. Are you really with Julian? Of course. I jumped at the chance to answer. It's been a while. That one time, you two almost ran into each other. The night you brought Lauren home. He's not as thick-skinned as Lauren, so he didn't dare show his face. He hid in the master bedroom closet, which is why I stopped you from going in. While Thomas was trembling with rage, I leaned over and pulled his hidden phone out from under the table, unlocked the screen, and paused the recording. Trying to get me dragged down with you? I playfully tapped his forehead. This is the new era. I'm not going to be publicly shamed or have people pointing fingers at me. Besides, after all the disgusting things you've done, they'll just praise me for a job well done." Thomas gritted his teeth and changed the subject. "The company is about to go under. The house and cars will all have to be sold to cover the debts. After all this chaos you've caused, what did you even gain?" I leaned close to his ear and whispered, "Remember all those huge purchases I made? I never bought any bags or jewelry. I was transferring the money out and investing it. You cheated so publicly, dragging my name through the mud. Those wives with similar problems loved feeling superior to me. So they were happy to give me business, to let me in on their money-making schemes." I leaned back and resumed my normal volume. "Thomas, that's what you should have recorded. Too bad. The only one ending up broke is you." Thomas's hand, gripping the edge of the table, was white-knuckled. "Lillian, you're ruthless." My face suddenly hardened. "Thomas, you were ruthless to me first. You shouldn't have tried to have it all." I took off the gemstone ring, placed it on the table, and slid it over to him. Mimicking his old tone, I said coolly, "This ring is still worth something. Today only, I'm leaving it for you. Hurry up and sign, HM. You wouldn't want your parents to end up destitute in their old age, would you?" Thomas finally signed the divorce papers. His belated declaration of love was sickening. "Lillian, believe it or not, I still love you. I just used the wrong methods. I never meant to hurt you." I decided to twist the knife a little, and give him a warning. I said with a smile, "Julian is eager to marry me, so in 1 month, please be there on time. And don't try any funny business. Otherwise, it won't be as simple as just going broke." Next up was the mandatory cooling-off period. But I couldn't cool off at all. Even though I was sure, I was still terrified that scumbag Thomas would change his mind at the last minute. So I went back to my boxing classes. When Julian found me, I was pummeling a punching bag, muttering, cooling-off period, this damn cooling-off period." Julian quietly backed out. He didn't dare cause any trouble and started practicing his seduction techniques. My social media feed, visible only to me, was flooded with pictures of his abs, wet-look photos, and uniform fantasies. After every night together, he would magnanimously tell me, "As long as I can be with you, I don't need a title." I moved back into my own small apartment, and he followed me like a puppy, carrying a small bag, going grocery shopping and cooking every day. Then he would whine, "These old people are so nosy. They keep asking about our relationship." I didn't look up. "Then pretend you're mute." Julian deflated. He started giving me gifts, along with signed voluntary gift agreements. "Babe, I don't say I love you, but I do love your business." It was hard to comment. I chose to sleep instead. After finally getting through the cooling-off period, Julian dressed up more formally than I did. He wore his flashiest clothes, his most expensive watch, got the coolest hairstyle, and drove the most ostentatious car. When I put on a high-neck dress to cover the hickeys he deliberately left the day before, he even pouted. "Why are you still hiding them? It's bad enough I can't be seen in public, but do my little love bites have to hide from the light too?" He started pinching his own neck in the mirror. "Then I'll just show my own." After a bit of theatrical posing, he pulled open his collar. "Or maybe, you could help me." I yawned and grabbed a lipstick, faking 2 marks for him. Seeing his slight dissatisfaction, I gave him 2 real kisses. Once he was happy, I took the opportunity to make a request. "You can't show up right away. Don't even drive the car over. Wait until I call you." He was so eager to show off, I was afraid he'd provoke Thomas at the last second and ruin everything. After placating Julian, I went to the city hall alone. Thomas had managed to make himself look presentable, but his eyes were full of exhaustion and hatred. He looked behind me and sneered, "Where's Julian? Wasn't he in a hurry to marry you? Why didn't he just bring you here and get a license himself?" I smiled back. "Getting married on the same day as you? A bit unlucky." He dumped you, didn't he? I told you, there's no way he'd be interested in you. Lillian, it was just cheating, and you made such an ugly scene. Who would dare to marry you now? They probably wouldn't even dare to date you. Why should cheating be as simple as just getting a divorce? I really wanted to argue with him, but seeing him get more and more worked up, I cut him off. Yes, you're right. Can we just get this over with now? Ha. He stared into my eyes and scoffed. Don't be so stubborn. You regret it too, don't you? Just look at those dark circles under your eyes. I decided to shut up and not say another word. When I finally had the divorce certificate in my hand, I let out a long sigh of relief and texted Julian, Pikachu, 10,000 volts, go. As Thomas walked out of the city hall, looking lost and dejected, it was time for the impeccably dressed Julian to make his grand entrance. He presented me with a bouquet of vibrant flowers, the watch on his wrist catching the sunlight and dazzling Thomas's eyes. He looked at Julian in disbelief. You two, are still together? Yup, what else? I stood on my tiptoes and whispered in Julian's ear, he still thinks you only hit on me because you were jealous of his self-made success. Julian, hearing this for the first time, gaped. What? That's hilarious. I can't even. He wrapped an arm around me and walked up to Thomas. Listen up. Everything I said that day was true. I've been in love with Lillian for years. He gave a solemn bow. Thank you for cheating. You finally gave me a chance. Thomas was devastated, but he still tried to fight back. What's so great about her? Mr. Julian, are you tired of gourmet food and suddenly want to try some leftovers? I pried open Julian's clenched fist, lacing my fingers with his, and then tossed a file at Thomas. You, who benefited from my light, have no right to judge me. After reading the file, Thomas looked like he could barely stand. He stammered, that money, it was yours? Just because you liked her? Julian said calmly, yes. I did it so Lillian could have a better life. You were just a side effect. So, think carefully about what you've really lost. Oh, wait. You haven't actually lost anything. You've just gone back to where you started. That's where you belong. I wrapped my arm around Julian's waist and gave a theatrical yawn. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll be going. Julian was a bit wild last night, kept me up all night. I need to catch up on sleep. This time, Thomas didn't say a word. The last I saw of him, through the car window, he was still standing there, frozen, as if in a trance. Seeing my indifferent expression, Julian suddenly spoke. Before you knew about the investment, your plan was just for me to show up in front of him when you got divorced? I patted his chin, my voice full of meaning. Yes. That was your only role. But the damage was immense. Men are strange. It doesn't matter if the woman who leaves them becomes successful or radiant. As long as there's no other man by her side, they'll arrogantly assume they haven't been forgotten or moved on from. They'll even think she has no charm, further confirming the correctness of their decision to leave. But the moment another man stands by my side, a man far superior to him, he will grind his teeth, his heart will ache. He will lie awake at night, constantly doubting himself, thinking he was blind, that he'd traded a treasure for a trinket, that he'd unknowingly thrown away a gem. It's like a weed, easily discarded, only to be treasured by someone else. The person who threw it away will then believe they accidentally lost a rare and precious flower. This sense of loss, regret, frustration, resentment, and jealousy will torment him forever. That was Julian's role. To kill without a blade, to pierce the heart without a knife. I had waited 3 years for this day, but now that it was here, my mind went blank for a moment. I leaned quietly against the car window, distancing myself from Julian as much as possible. Silence filled the car. The sound of traffic was like a downpour. If Julian didn't love me, maybe we could have high-fived and shouted, success. But there were no ifs. My lips parted and closed several times before I finally managed to speak. The goal has been achieved. We can end this now. Love is about letting go and setting someone free. If you really love me, don't make me question your love. I used his love against him, afraid his persistence would make me waver. If being had means not being cherished, then can you just never have me? That way, you'll love me forever. My nails dug into my palms. I didn't dare turn my head. In my peripheral vision, the only thing moving was the 4-leaf clover air freshener I'd once said I liked, still mechanically swaying back and forth. Julian pulled up to my apartment building. This time, he didn't get out of the car. His voice was a little hoarse. Then I'll just drop you off here. My eyes suddenly stung. Thank you for everything. If there were no surprises, the story should have ended there. But I got pregnant. When my best friend Renee heard the news, she burst out laughing. Damn, Julian's got skills. Something Thomas couldn't manage in 2 years, he did in 2 months. You should really just slap the pregnancy test on Thomas's face. What was it he said back then? I have endometriosis, which makes it difficult to get pregnant. When Thomas first cheated, he even tried to argue it was all my fault. Because I had trouble getting pregnant, I needed IVF. Because IVF made me bloated and irritable, I was always in pain and complaining. He said he got fed up and that's why he went looking for someone else. Renee was still fuming on my behalf. Now the truth is out. If you hadn't married him, maybe you wouldn't have even needed IVF in the first place. She was right. I never expected it. I'd only let Julian have his way a few times. He had sincerely shown me his clean bill of health, and his handsome face had been too persuasive. My resolve had softened. The doctor told me that after having a child and using herbal medicine to recover, there was a chance the condition could be cured. I wouldn't have to suffer through painful periods every month. So, are you going to keep the baby? Renee's voice came through the phone. I touched my flat stomach and made up my mind. Yes. Then what about Julian? What else? I'm going to pull a classic move. Knocked up and on the run. Renee cackled. All right, girl. I'll book your flight. In 5 years, a genius baby will make a grand entrance. I went home and started packing, but the doorbell started ringing frantically. Julian, the baby daddy, had arrived. He sure gets his news fast. I let him in. After all, this was something we needed to discuss. But the moment Julian saw my suitcase, his face filled with resentment. Lillian, are you really planning to run away with my baby? I got angry too. How dare you eavesdrop on my calls? I didn't. The doctor you saw is a friend of mine. He wrapped his arms around my waist. This time, you can't push me away again, can you? I put in the work, too. You can't just enjoy the fruits of my labor all by yourself. That's not fair. I leaned into his embrace. But Julian, I'm really scared. I don't dare to get married again. Just give me a wedding, Lillian. We'll get married, but we won't get a license. He really gets it. So, I pointed to the suitcase on the floor and explained, I wasn't going to run. It's just that a lot of my clothes don't fit anymore, so I was packing them up. Running away with a baby is really not a smart move. Julian was very good at comforting himself. He quickly came up with a whole speech to express how little he cared. Marriage certificates used to be a guarantee, a promise, a contract for a lifetime together. But now, illegitimate children have inheritance rights, there's a cooling-off period, domestic abuse isn't considered assault, and your fists are so strong now. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. He was so full of it. On my daughter's 5th birthday, I started telling her a story. How a duke defeated his treacherous brother. A long time ago, a duchess had 2 sons. She favored the younger one and wanted him to be the heir, but the duke told her, give a wicked man enough rope, and he will hang himself. Just you wait. When you want to deal with someone, the best way is often to let them have their way. So I let Thomas become more and more outrageous, until he said something so awful that even strangers would feel sorry for me. The younger brother then demanded 2 more cities for himself. When the Duke heard of his brother's plan to attack, he said, "Now is the time," and sent 200 chariots to attack his brother's city. If you want revenge, but also want to keep the moral high ground, you not only have to be patient, but you also have to be meticulous in your planning. So I waited 3 years before I started seeing other men, before I started throwing every humiliation he'd inflicted on me right back in his face. Julian wasn't my only option. If he had said no, there was always a newly legal college kid. The Duke then banished his mother, vowing not to see her again until they met in the underworld. But he later regretted it, and they reconciled as mother and son. The Duke eventually reconciled with his biased mother, but that doesn't mean he truly forgave her. In those days, the Queen Mother had a lot of power. To secure his throne, he didn't mind giving his mother a magnificent palace to placate her. When you are strong and happy enough, you should choose to de-escalate conflicts to avoid provoking retaliation. So I let Thomas join a small company, giving him just enough hope that he would never be able to make a comeback. He would live in a constant state of regret, tormented by the gap between what he had and what he could have had. So when do you think the Duke let go of his feelings for his family? Was it when his mother asked for a city for his brother? Or when his brother tried to take over more land? Or when his mother planned to open the city gates for his brother's attack? No, it was none of those. It was when his mother showed her preference for the younger son and wanted to make him the heir. That's when he hardened his heart. Whether it's family, friends, or lovers, if a relationship causes you pain, you must cut it off as soon as possible. Because if you don't leave, you will eventually be left. And being left is much more painful. If the Duke had clung to that little bit of affection, to his mother's occasional kindness, to his brother's rare moments of respect, he would have died for it. When did I decide to throw Thomas away? It was when I found him at the address in that photo. Even though I was pregnant, even though we had countless beautiful memories, even though he was a successful man. Sunk costs don't factor into major decisions. It's never too late to change. I carved out my past feelings along with that bloody piece of flesh, and then I started to learn, to invest behind Thomas's back. Of course, a 5-year-old couldn't understand all of this. She looked at me with a cute, confused expression. But that's okay. One day, she will face similar choices in her life, and these fragments of stories hidden in her mind will resurface and guide her. I firmly believe in the saying, one is not born, but rather becomes, a woman. Most girls are taught from a young age to be quiet and avoid risks. In sappy, love-obsessed dramas, the ideas of chastity and loyalty are a constant theme. But for boys, it's the opposite. They are taught to be brave and heroic. In epic tales of power and conquest, women are merely decorative and disposable. Subtly, women grow up hoping to marry a man they love and be a good wife and mother, while men are more focused on conquering the professional world. I was almost 30 when I finally saw this truth. But my child cannot learn it so late. The shadow lingering outside the door quietly retreated. That night, Julian held me for a long time. Just before I fell into an exhausted sleep, I thought I heard him whisper in my ear, "You're so wicked, but I love it." Julian's story. This is a story about waiting. Julian was never injured as a child and saved by Lillian. He was never a chubby kid comforted by Lillian. Due to his grandfather's failed parenting, his father became a spoiled brat. His heartbroken grandfather decided that Julian would attend a regular middle and high school. He wanted him to understand the lives of ordinary people so he wouldn't always be looking down on them, so that if he ever fell, he wouldn't shatter. And so, on the sports field of a regular high school, he saw Lillian. She had turned her head, talking to a friend about something. But the sun was just right that day, the breeze was gentle, and when she smiled and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his heart suddenly became a zither on a table, plucked by a gentle hand. With a soft jang, the note lingered, and his heartstrings vibrated. But they were in high school, charging towards their future. So, out of a sense of responsibility to both of them, Julian decided to wait until after the college entrance exams to confess. At his most impatient, he deliberately dropped something in front of Lillian twice. She called out to him, and they exchanged a few words. Just before graduation, his identity was unexpectedly revealed. Worried for his safety, his grandfather made him study at home. Back then, Julian was still a shy, innocent boy. He gave gifts to the entire grade, just so his crush would receive the chocolate that represented his secret love. But he missed his chance. Lillian started dating Thomas. But that was okay. They could break up. But they didn't break up, even after graduating from college. Julian smiled faintly. It was fine. A lot of couples break up after starting work. He would wait. But they still didn't break up and were about to get married. Julian gritted his teeth and continued to wait. A lot of couples break up right before the wedding, after all. But they got married without a hitch. But that was okay. Some men, once they completely possess a woman, start to look for new emotional connections elsewhere. They could still get divorced. When Thomas started his business, Julian anonymously gave him a large sum of money. Even if Lillian wasn't by his side, she had to live a good life. He deliberately had some beautiful women circle around Thomas. But he never held a gun to his head and forced him. However, the moment Thomas took that step, his chance would come. Finally, his wait was not in vain. Thomas cheated. And right when Lillian had just gotten pregnant. Julian was conflicted, but he still chose to mail the photos. Lillian couldn't be kept in the dark, couldn't just have the baby without knowing. But he never expected that Lillian would have an abortion but not get a divorce. Well, what could he do? The girl he fell in love with was just that loyal. It was fine. He could wait. Wait for her to slowly carve Thomas out of her heart. He had waited this long. He didn't mind waiting a little longer. But 3 years passed, and Lillian still wasn't divorced. Julian decided he couldn't wait any longer. He couldn't be so proper anymore. He decided to move in for the kill, to seduce Lillian. But he never expected the girl of his dreams to suddenly walk up to him. "I hear you and my husband are rivals. Want to mess with him together?" Julian leaned down and kissed her. "Of course. I'd love nothing more." Julian helped her into the passenger seat, carefully fastened her seatbelt, and then asked like a gentleman, "My place or yours?"